Robert Young. How are you?
Very good, Lilu. How are you?
Good. Good. Thank you for accepting this interview. I've connected with you through Alan Steinfeld. You did
Yeah,
a wonderful interview on expanding consciousness. You had quite an opening in your life, something that came about that were not expected, and you're having this kind of like second life now. Can you tell us
yeah.
what happened and how you're living your life these days and how it is different from before?
It sounds like it's a second life, but in fact, it's the only one I know. The previous one, as such, I sort of have the information, but I don't have much feeling about being there. So it's a little bit like reading a book about someone. The big difference is I don't even have an index, so I can't even tell the story unless somebody relates to a photograph or an event, and then I can talk about it. But it's not a case of feeling it at all. But the life I've got now is quite different
Hmm.
in many ways. But I think the biggest way is that I remember more about uh, outside of this world than I remember what's happening in this world.
Hmm. So what do you mean by that?
This is the most difficult for everybody, I think. I don't know how everybody else wants to see things. I only see them myself. So to know that I come from another place that is not like this and it's not describable here is pretty hard to get across. But when the vibration of knowing comes between myself and other people, there's an understanding that's unwritten. It's just a recognition. And
Hmm.
that recognition seems to describe as much as I need to describe.
So would you say that you're a lot peaceful than before?
I have no comparison.
You have no comparison.
No,
So you're just living every moment now as it is in the flow of life, not really planning anything, but just going one step at a time, one thought at a time, one word at a time?
that's pretty well it. But there's a lot more behind it because we have this knowing of everything is good, everything's okay, knowing that we're doing it the right way, that we're on the right street, if you like, and the fact that I don't have to go running around to look for the sign to see what street I'm on, I think is a little bit unique.
Isn't that what a lot
Most
of human beings are seeking? We would love to learn from you so we can start applying this. There's a lot of people that are saying they're awakening, and it seems that we have forgotten this, but we know it. We have that too.
that's correct. I sort of work with people in a way that I've found for a long time hard to explain, but it's exactly the same way as everybody else works, but they don't realise it. I tell the story about teaching a child to ride a bicycle and how you just put the child on the seat, put the hands on the handlebars, feet on the pedal, and you hold the seat and you give a very simple instruction: pedal and steer. And that's it. And every one of us just takes that for granted. But we don't realise that as we push the child along on the bicycle, we're transmitting everything that's needed for that child to balance, to have the right attitude, to look where they're going, to pedal, to steer, and to open to their own information so that they can achieve what they want. And we prove that every day by taking our hand off the seat. and the child still rides. And we don't realise that we're transmitting everything. And if we step back or they lose confidence, we break the transmission. And if that happens, they fall over. So we move along and we continue to transmit until they open up that thing above their head that allows them to connect to their own world and feel the confidence that they have found the right page. And then they ride off and they come back and say, look what I'm doing. They don't say, thanks for teaching me. So everybody has what they need, and we only hold steady for them with our vibration until they can open up to their own information. So basically what I do is exactly what everybody else does, but I was just more aware of it, that's all.
So you're speaking. So where is this coming from? When you're saying emanating, where is that emanating from? You're talking about opening up this area, and I've heard in another interview of yours that you were saying about giving 100% of our brain to source, something like this, to the creator.
Yes.
While emanating from the heart center. Can you describe the connection between those two and how you see that now?
Yeah, it's natural for me. So I take the feedback of people and with what they give me, and what they feel, I fill in the gaps. So people say, well, I don't feel anything over the top of my head. So I just sit with them until it happens. And then when they start to feel that, their heart starts to open and they physically feel it. Just like the child with the bicycle. So I can sit there and hold that until it flows for somebody, and then they can take it over for themselves. And they find that they don't need an explanation because it's just happening. And as soon as you try to explain, it stops. And this has been the human problem, asking why and how, instead of just allowing it to happen.
But yeah, we're thinking machines down here.
Yeah, but you're actually not. You've been taught to be thinking machines.
Yeah.
And you don't have to teach.
So we just have to relax, really.
Yeah, and don't be lazy. Be sensitive to everything that's coming to you. Allow it to actually be there instead of saying, no, it's not there. Until you prove it to me, I won't feel anything. I won't know anything until it's proven to me. That is a program that sort of needs to be left to one side. And it makes a big difference to everyone just by realising that they are such elegant beings that they can tap into things that aren't proven to them and they can work with the unknown. And it's pretty easy with the unknown because nobody's been able to get in there and make some rules. You just take the unknown and do what you like with it. And it's natural and it's simple. And the simplicity is the whole essence of our being. We're here capable of working miracles every day. And we have that total sense that if it's not impossible, well, we're not interested. That's somebody else's job. If it's impossible, we'll walk in there and we'll produce some miracles. And that joy of being able to know that is what opens people's hearts to the joy that they brought with them to this earth. And there's much, much more about people's spirit than they realise. you excite your spirit, and there's not one thing wrong with you.
So how do you excite that spirit? Do you, because you actually talk about the twin energy that you connect to on different dimensions. Do we all have that, and is that a way to really connect deeper to our own spirit and essence? Are we only half of that soul here? Do you feel like you're only half of that until you connect with actually that twin? And do we all have one?
You have more than one. You have access to an enormous amount of connections that are part of you. And you're only a small part of your being. The part that's here is actually the front focus for a very, very big entity that's everywhere and that shows itself all around the world and other places. And I do the little exercise with people of saying, if you follow me through this little exercise, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I usually say, okay, you're up in a plane, you're on a train, you're at your mother's place, you're looking down on the Alps, you're in the Eiffel Tower, you're looking down on the stars, you're on the other side of the room, and you didn't move 1 ounce. So you are everywhere, you just don't realise it. And that universal being is the one that has the joy of knowing that it's everywhere. And that little exercise is so simple, and it proves so much, and opens everybody's heart immediately.
So how can we connect to its wisdom, and how could we more embody those spirit qualities? How can we?
Very, very simple. Most of it's simple. If you have a look at what happens when everybody's watching a ball game and it's getting very critical, then all of a sudden there's a home run hit. People jump out of their chairs, they're joyous, they have nothing wrong with them, they forget everything, and life is brilliant. And even those who've got broken legs jump in the air. There's nothing wrong with us physically if we can excite that spirit and entertain that spirit. So that's the key to everything. We see it happen, but it's only for an instant. But it's enough signal to show you that if you excite your spirit all the time, you'll be connected to exactly where you've got to be connected whenever you need to. And then the complications that come into thinking what happens, you cannot get involved in, because it goes so fast that your brain stops. In that excitement of their spirit, the brain stops, it's just elated, and your heart takes over. And when that happens, everything that you've ever wanted is there, until you ask your brain to analyse it. So it's a case of a little bit of precision where we can all use what we've already got. And in that moment, we are connected to everywhere and everything. And if someone from outer space turned up in front of you at that moment, it wouldn't matter. You'd be bouncing around with them.
Actually, you're speaking about extraterrestrial beings too, or vibration. I'm not sure how you refer to it. That would help the vibration on this planet.
Yeah. There are many that are assisting, and there are many who have been here. And those who haven't been here are only a hair's breadth away. They're in a dimension that often appears on this earth. And we play with dimensions every day. And those dimensions are so simple. We even do it ourselves. If we're sitting around a table and we only want to talk to the person opposite us and there's 10 other people, we create a dimension around that conversation so that we can speak and nobody else knows what's happening. We don't realise that we're experts in dimensions. So we can make that and break it at our will. We can also make and break the dimensions between us and what we call ETs in the same way. And it sometimes happens. And you put it back again really quick so that it doesn't shock your system, as you call it. But in fact, we're very familiar with one another, all of us. And we cross one another's paths many times throughout I was just about to say through life, but it's more than that. It's through our travels in the universe where time really doesn't matter. And right here now, we can play with being everywhere and being in every time. And you'll notice that recently, so many people are talking about going from one place to another and getting there much earlier than they thought they could possibly do. So time bends a little bit for us now, and it's getting more and more so. We can sometimes leave later than what we're supposed to and get there earlier than we were supposed to. And by all calculations, that's impossible. But we're all experiencing it. And we have the case of particularly old people putting things down, say on a table, walking away and coming back and they're not there. And they think they're going crazy. So they look everywhere and come back and it's there. Because the dimension has shifted and the friends around them are starting to play games to lighten everything up. And I keep telling the story about the fact that children, no matter how small they are, know exactly what to do when you put fairy wings on them and give them a wand, little dress.
That's fun.
Nobody taught them. We came from that. We came from the world of magic. And the little story about Tinkerbell and the sparkles. How many people know about those sparkles? We all do. That's the connections to the multidimensional world. On each one of those sparkles is our connection. And our hearts open when we think about those things because it's so common and it's been around us forever. But right now, it's becoming very, very real to us. And that's what I love to talk about.
So yeah, and you, it definitely opens our heart to just hear that, and when you speak, you're certainly connected and with an open heart. Even if we cannot see it, we can feel it.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful feeling. It's blissful.
Yeah, and that's the gift we give to one another. That's what we came here with, a gift for everybody. And we don't have to worry about ourselves. And the gift I always talk about is we have tremendous ability to give to somebody something that is so solid and so real that it just happens and it happens forever. And what we give is the offer of perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future. And as we send that to each person we see, you can feel it. And as you feel it, you do that to 1,000 people and imagine what comes back to you. It's an enormous gift. And that has been with us forever. But we're now in a position where the energies have changed and the energies of the universe will not support turmoil. We can have lots of turmoil, but it will disappear very quickly now.
What do you mean by turmoil?
Well, family feuds, say. You can have, in the past, 50 years ago, somebody said something to someone and the whole family has decided not to speak to one another for 50 years. That's not supported anymore. You find that if anything goes wrong, there's this drive to make sure that it comes back to normal. All the negative advertising, they have to do it every half hour now, otherwise it won't sink in. It used to be you put it up once and you've done the job. But the universe is discharging all those things that caused forces around us that stopped us from seeing who we are. And those forces cause a distortion between people. And it's still there a little bit with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
There's a distortion that comes in, it's a force, and each person thinks the other one is seeing something wrong or is saying something wrong. But in fact, it's not either. It's the distortion that appears between them. And that's why partnership is the right word. Because partners, it's like a three-legged race. You're just going in the same direction. You don't even consider any give and take. You are two separate people generating something bigger than both of you. And you're not attempting to give the life away that you can't give away. In a partnership, you end up two halves, two half people, because you end up trying to give away part of your life. And that's not how it is. We all have no right to give away our life. It's ours to live and it's ours to manufacture whatever we can out of it. But we come together so that our combination can produce much, much more than we could ever imagine. And in that sort of action, we're totally individual, but we make a difference. And I give the example of the pregnant lady who's sitting at a cafe, totally connected to a baby, herself, and a creator. And she glows. Takes no notice of anybody, but changes everybody that walks past. And that's the power we have. So we glow. And the fact that people can turn heads seems to be something that's been pushed in the background, but it's so essential. Particularly you ladies, you walk along the street and if you don't turn heads, you haven't healed everybody in your path. You're supposed to turn heads.
So that's that third force, that's that invisible force. What do you call it? This connection between the mom and the baby creates something else that is unseen yet that we can feel.
That's it. Yeah, that's the essence that we know perfectly, that we can't name because it is so magnificent and it has so much to it that it's beyond the brain, it's beyond speech. But it's so simple and so magic that it gives life to everything. And we have that.
Mm-hmm. Where do we see it in life in those instances so people can recognize that?
Well, two people who love one another and are happy in life, you can see something else, you can feel something else because of their combination. And to see them together just lifts your heart. They're not doing anything. They're just emanating love. They emanate love. way beyond what anybody expects.
How did meeting Barbara, your wife now, change you or elevated your spirit? Because you met her after all this transformation.
That's right. In the time from my accident through recovery and sudden change into a person that was showing no injuries, through to another 20 odd years, I went through the exercise that was part of coming into this world, where the body has a memory and it has connections to other people, has connections to family, has connections to past actions. And so it takes a long time for that to actually settle to a point where you have no more commitments. And right at that point where I felt it was all set, Barbara turned up. And when she turned up, we knew one another. And the story of how we met and how it all came to pass is one that Barbara tells beautifully. And it's there are so many what you would call synchronicities that we can look at afterwards that you could never have planned, that happened for that purpose. And as soon as we got together, we both knew that we could actually get out there and do what we're supposed to do. And that's be that loving couple, emanate that special essence, and talk to people and do what we're doing now. Give people the opportunity to feel what we both brought into the world. And that really, I think, is what we're all looking for, that time when everything comes together and you say, okay, now I can do what I'm supposed to do because I have an ally, I have someone next to me. We contribute so much into that overall energy that we emanate that it makes a difference. And I think that's what fills the hearts of everybody that sees us.
Mm. So what can you tell us what participated in you attracting her in your life? You said you were complete and then she appeared?
Yeah, it's a story that starts from Barbara's end, actually, where she went on a path that was totally different.